Alright, so Far Cry is a game all about guns, explosions, and causing absolute chaos. But what if I told you all of that was completely unnecessary? What if, instead of an arsenal of high-powered weapons, you had nothing but a knife? That's right. Today, we're asking the question that no one, literally no one but one person, has ever asked. Can you beat Far Cry with only the knife? Now, the person who asked this question wasn't actually me. This is the first viewer requested video, and the person who asked this question is the viewer Silent Forest CS9DM, who commented on my previous Far Cry Primal video asking, please ask the question if you could beat the real Far Cry game with only the knife. And barely, I did it. This was just painful. And I feel like I just need to let this out right now. This is my first time playing Far Cry 1. And this wasn't exactly the greatest experience for me to be introduced to this game. Because in this game, normally, you're supposed to start off with pretty okay ranged weapons like a pistol or a M16 carbine. And then eventually you move on to more advanced weapons that deal a bunch of damage. And at first, the first few levels are like exclusively long range. So that made closing distance extremely difficult. And later on in the game, the levels do get more confined. And I feel like over time, I did more damage over time, if that makes sense. So towards the end, this starts to be not as like draining on me, but going into this challenge, I just felt like tired all the time playing this challenge. I did not have a good time doing this at all. This was horrible, especially when you first meet your higher level, quote unquote, higher level enemies who do insane amounts of damage. And they do just like they two-shot you when you're wearing full armor, full health. And you do like 5 hits to kill them with just a puny little knife. And originally, I did try to do this at hard difficulty, and then I tried to do this at normal difficulty, but I just couldn't. I tried, but I just couldn't. So I had to go down to the easiest difficulty in the game in order to do this. And even then, barely was I able to do this. So make sure you stick around for the rest of the video. But I'm just going to jump straight into the rules for this run. The 2 main rules that I have in my head right now for this are 1, obviously I can only use the knife, and 2, interestingly enough, for this run, I did allow flashbangs to be used because they didn't actually kill the enemy, and I also allowed vehicle kills because there were just some parts where I couldn't avoid vehicle kills. I tried to at first, but then I just stopped caring, to be honest. So vehicle kills are allowed, flashbang kills are allowed. So I guess that's 3 rules. Only the knife, only vehicle kills, and flashbangs are allowed. And finally, with all these rules and everything out of the way, let's begin. The game begins as I'm relaxing on my boat, just trying to, enjoy the nice island view out on the ocean. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a rocket launcher, someone with a rocket launcher shoots at the boat, shoots it down, and it explodes. And I'm flung into the water and drift off into unconsciousness. But then suddenly, I wake up in just a random abandoned fort, and I have to try and find my way out of there and back to civilization. Also, there's like this whole thing with like this girl who goes and leaves on a jet ski. I have no idea what that's about, but she's there, I guess. Then I overhear a conversation between 2 random people, completely random, and I'm sure I'll never encounter either of them ever again. Basically just saying how they need to look for me and they need to hunt me down because story. After making my way through a few movement tutorials, I eventually meet a person named Doyle who calls me on a random phone. At first I don't know who he is, but he introduces himself. And he claims to know my location, and he knows about all the mercenaries that are hunting me. And he also claims that he can get me off the island, and he can reunite me with the girl that I lost at the beginning. So I guess we're trusting him for now. And on the outside, I'm just playing the stealth game until I can get my knife from this shack, and then the real run can begin because, like I said, can't really hurt anybody without the knife. And after fighting my way through the first few batches of enemies and through the majority of the first part of the first island, I come across this huge yacht, which is the next big area that you encounter where you have to fight everybody. And this area is horrible. It was horrible to fight through. It absolutely sucked because it's so open and there's so few med kits and body armor, so I have nothing to protect myself from people shooting me, and I have no way of killing them from a distance. And this took so many tries. I'm just gonna have to skip over the majority of it, but I'll try to highlight some of it. After making my way onto the boat, I get a radio call from Doyle who tells me that there should be another life raft on board that I should be able to drive to go to a separate part of the island. After failing to record the entirety of the boat footage, the next section of the game is where you kind of just go along this beach after getting off your boat, and then after you get your way over to a cave so that way you can like do other stuff. And once we enter the cave, it is here where for the first time we meet the new big strong enemy that actually sucks so much to fight, the Trigens. They're basically just mutated primates. They're only melee, so we have the same fighting distance, but the problem with them is they do about a quarter of my health in one hit, and it takes me like 3 or 4 hits to kill them. So they just hurt like a tank, and they can tank hits. After fighting my way through the caves and a tiny little facility that was underground, I make my way to the woodland. And after arriving at the woodland, I make my way over to a lab that has this own thing going on, and it has another lead to possibly where Val, the girl I'm searching for, could be. So I get into the lab and I get all the information I need, then I get the hell out of there. After fighting my way through the jungle, and by fighting I mean mostly just ramming my truck through a few people, I arrive at this underground facility where a whole lot of absolutely nothing happens. It's just another clear the clear the level, clear the dungeon, move on to the next section, clear the level, clear the dungeon, move on to the next section. It's just that over and over and over again. And I feel like that's one of my main criticisms of this game. This game's just very repetitive to me because a lot of the time you just go from one level of killing everybody in that level to the next level where it's the exact same thing. There's never really anything new to it. Occasionally it'll be like, oh, plant the bomb here, but only after you've killed everyone. And it's just the same thing over and over, and that's my main criticism with this game. This game really took a lot off of me. After fighting my way through the facility, I come across this helicopter that's taking off with the whole leader of the whole Trigen mercenary group that's been hunting me down, driving the helicopter. So I need to make my way onto the helicopter before he escapes. I managed to jump and grab onto one of the wheels, but not before one of the guards spots me. Luckily, the girl I've been searching for, Valerie, was on this helicopter. She helps me by kicking me off the helicopter, and we land on the beach for a short talk. After speaking with Val for a little bit, I overhear a conversation between her and Doyle, and I discover that the Trigens I've been fighting so far have been the untrained ones, which means there are Trigens out there that are trained, so I have to look forward to that. After clearing my way through the rest of the island that I landed on with Val, eventually I come across a bunch of shacks that have a bunch of seemingly meaningless stuff in them, but it's here that I find the night vision goggles and a bunch of other stuff that I've been looking for in order to progress onto the next section of the game. After fighting my way through the jungle for a while, Eventually, I find myself at this construction site right next to a huge facility, and Doyle tells me that he can get me into the facility to cause a Trigen outbreak and cause chaos all over the island. He just needs me to find the blueprints for it. So after fighting a bunch of people and scouring around for a while, eventually I find the blueprints so I can make my way inside the facility. Also, just look at this clip of me having to swim through this little pond area just into this fort because I can't take anybody on. This was the majority of the run. After making my way into the facility, it's just a whole lot more dungeon crawling, people shooting at me stabbing them. It's the same thing over and over. Like I said, this game is very repetitive. But after making my way through the facility, it's time to go activate the elevator so I can reunite with Val. And upon exiting the facility, it is here where we get our first look at the trained Trigens and the Trigens that have been mixed with human DNA instead of the primate DNA. So these are the new, like, big bad enemies to deal with. And they honestly aren't all that more difficult than normal people. The normal Trigens are more threats than they are. After getting attacked by all the evolved Trigens, I decided to flee through the sewer system in order to get away from them. And it's just another sewer system facility type dungeon crawler all over again to progress the main story.
It's not a joke.
You're serious, aren't you?
You're giving me yet another repetitive level.
And why should we believe you?
I got nothing left to lose. Nothing can hurt me anymore. My life is nothing but a comedy.
Well, let me get this straight. You think
You can just give me yet another level that's the same?
I do. And I'm tired of pretending it's not. Comedy is subjective, Murray. Isn't that what they say?
Hot on Val's tail, I arrive at yet another facility. Like, God, how many of these things are there? But basically, this one's half ruined, and I have to find Val. And I know she's somewhere in here, but the big problem is that there are also a bunch of Trigens in here, so I have to find her before they do. After clearing my way through the facility and yet another facility that links to that facility, I reunite with Val and we have a conversation with Doyle about the main villain of the story, Krieger, and apparently he's nearby along with his compound. And Doyle's having issues dealing with Krieger because he's blocking all the helicopters and all the signals from coming in and out of the island. So he suggests that we go deal with it, and so does Val, but Jack has basically just had enough. And to be honest, I'm gonna have to agree with him. This story is just dragging on and on. And then magically I wake up on a boat just driving to the compound that Krieger owns. So it's time to go blow up the compound and possibly deal with Krieger, which I'm sure will definitely not be any issue for me dealing with him with only knife if he's in a helicopter, and I can definitely deal with him without having to break the rules. Definitely. And after doing some more clearing missions of a bunch of places, I arrive at Krieger's big yacht thing that he has, so I have to invade the yacht, and then he's gonna come down and fight me in his helicopter. And at the Krieger boss fight where he's in a helicopter, I really did try to see if maybe like he lands or if he ever gets close enough where I could jump and hit the helicopter or something or anything. Or maybe I could try like throwing a flashbang midair and that'll crash the helicopter because I'm allowing flashbangs. But unfortunately, I couldn't get any of this to work. So I definitely totally took him out with only my knife, and let's move on. As it turns out, shooting down Krieg's helicopter actually did nothing, and he survived it and managed to escape to a nearby island, so I need to search the entire island to see if I can go kill him. After scouring the entire island and taking out a bunch of small militia forces, eventually I come across a very big military force headed by like Dr. Krieger's second in command. And it's there that I see Dr. Krieger calling his second in command, Cole, I think, asking him to check in. And I have a short conversation with Dr. Krieger just to let him know that I'm on my way to go get him. And shortly after my conversation with Dr. Krieger's second in command, I meet back up with Val, or more like she meets back up with me over at his body. And she tells me about this note, this plan that he had to do other stuff other places on the island. So we need to go deal with that. Moving on, we run into the second main problem of this run, and that's this little section where you're trapped in a car and you have to make it from point A to point B without the car getting blown up or shot up, or without you or Val dying. Now pay attention to that or Val part, because that was the big thing that screwed this entire thing up. I tried many times to see if I could get by without shooting anything, without doing anything, with just praying that we would get by. But every single time, Val would die without fail. So unfortunately, I believe you cannot get past this part without having to shoot at anything. Maybe if someone's more patient than me, maybe you can try this, but I really don't think that you will be able to pass this. But let's move on. Moving on, it's another same level type thing where I just need to clear a whole base so Val can get to this forklift. And apparently we're transporting a fucking nuke on a forklift that was just hiding in a facility with a handful of guys guarding it. Something tells me this isn't how these things are handled. I mean, Krieger needs to crack down on his security. Jesus. After clearing another compound and clearing the way for Val with the forklift with the nuke, we make our way into the elevator to go to the underground bunker to blow crap up. And from here on out, it's basically just a lot of boss wave clear levels that honestly aren't that difficult. They just throw 5 guys at you at a time. And there's only 3 waves of this, so this wasn't difficult at all, and I passed this very easily. Before clearing everybody out of the way for Val to do the whole nuke thing, it's time to inject ourselves with the inoculation for the mutagen, and then we just need to move on, and basically we're in the end game now. After the nuke detonating and Val and I getting knocked unconscious, we wake up in Dr. Krieger's helicopter to see the man, Dr. Krieger himself. And it is here where he tells me some very chilling information. It is here where I learn that Dr. Krieger has taken everything from me. Everything, including my precious knife. So I don't have a knife anymore. And I've checked this next section over and over. I've looked on the wiki, but I just can't find anywhere online to see if there's a knife in this next section. So for now, it's a no. You can't beat Far Cry 1 with only the knife. However, I guess I'll just beat the rest of the game. This run was, to say the least, very repetitive, as all my runs are, and very challenging, again, as all my runs are. But I feel like it was just this game in particular. There were some parts of this game that I did enjoy a lot. I loved this game for its combat actions, if that makes sense. I like this game for the combat mechanics of what little of that I experienced. Again, like I said, this was literally my first time ever touching this game. And I really enjoyed the physics, I really enjoyed the combat, but the main problem for me was the story was just the same thing over and over and over again. And the levels were like the story, the same thing over and over and over again. I guess those would be my main complaints with this. Another complaint was that this took me about a week and a half to actually beat the game like this, and the rest of this time was spent editing this video. This is a bit of a decently sized video, and this took a lot longer than I had expected, than I had initially anticipated to produce out. I wanted this out about like 3 days ago, 5 days ago, but I simply didn't have the time because I was busy with other things, end of the year tests and stuff. But I was finally able to scrounge enough time together to finally beat this game. And boy, was it an anticlimactic ending. I will be doing one more video on this game and then I will be moving on, and I don't know if I'm ever going to return. This game was just not that fun for me to play. And I don't know how I'm going to end the video from here, so goodbye.